Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing fine. This is our usual meeting every Friday, and we're here with a new next live all together with Amit Sinha from Deloitte and with Thorsten West from West Virginia University. I'm going to maximize the screen on myself for a second just to show you what is it that we will be discussing today. So this is a new book, Digital Supply Networks, that was released, I want to say, a month ago or so. Um, Perhaps I should not start by saying that, but this is one of the most, like, because this is the conclusion, this is where I should conclude, but this is one of the most interesting reads that I've had in a while. And I'm gonna explain why is that, and then we're gonna discuss with Amit and Thorsten, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. It's because this book was written. I'm used to academic books where I need to scratch my head to understand the concept, but the level of effort that was made to make the topic that is so important approachable for everyone, like big kudos to you guys. Amit, Thorsten, how are you doing?
Good.
All right.
Thank you, Ravi, for having us here.
Yeah, it's fun. This is really uh, like next live. I try to basically connect with interesting topics that um, people are interested to hear about. And I don't think, especially today with what's going on, there is something more interesting than digital supply networks. So I think we are the topic du jour. Thorsten, how are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Happy that it's Friday, but very happy to be here, Rami.
Is there really a Friday for us academicians? Like, does it really exist?
Well, don't tell the secret to the PhD students, right?
Well, I actually, you know what, my approach, I actually tell my PhD students, I mean, you know what's happening to me. You see it live in front of you. That will happen to you. Don't ever think that there are some management tool tricks that can make it easier. There is a lot of people saying hi to you guys. I'm gonna say hi to Mohsan. That's saying. So I want to say something for all of the folks listening to us. If you have any questions at any time, just post it, and it will appear here, and we can discuss it and make sure that Amit and Thorsten get the chance to talk about it. All right, Amit and Thorsten, let's pull up some of the charts that we have to start with an introduction. So, Thorsten, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I keep it short. I'm Thorsten Rüst, a professor at West Virginia University, and I'm heading the Smart Manufacturing Lab down there. I know Rami for a while. We wrote another book together last year, so we know the process. My focus is mostly on AI and machine learning in manufacturing, product lifecycle management, smart products, that smart manufacturing realm beyond the shop floor and on the shop floor.
This is awesome. Yes, and for people, I mean, people are on my LinkedIn. I did give you a shout out once, if you remember, when in the middle of COVID, things were so crazy for everyone, and you sent me just this text out of nowhere. Friendship in academia is very, very important, and I'm honored to be a friend, Thorsten. Amit, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Amit Sinha. I'm a leader at Deloitte Consulting in US right now. I have been doing supply chain transformation and business transformation for more than 15 years. And what I have done, work in the end-to-end supply chain planning, sales and operation planning, demand, supply, execution, logistics, and usage of technology. And now we are helping many of our clients on this exciting journey of supply chain to digital supply networks while working with data, enterprise architecture, enterprise chain management.
This
Very
is awesome. I'm looking forward for the next chat and for all of us to learn together. All right, so I guess we're starting off with this. This is the book that I just showed a little bit before. Oh, we should all hold the copies of the book at the same time. That's
right.
Hey, that's gonna be the snapshot of the session. I'm gonna use that. That's awesome. So let's start with this. Amit, why writing a book on digital supply networks? Like, what made you say, okay, you know what, we need this, I'm going to start this project, and I'm going to be writing a book on digital supply networks?
We have been working in this area for quite some time. And when I say we, it's Deloitte, my team, and our leadership, and many more consultants. And we have seen the change is obvious, correct? Supply chain has, and Adam Musamali, who has written the foreword of this book, he leads our SCN operation. He has written that supply chain has defined the world we live in. In last 20 or 30 years, it has connected a lot of stuff. But another reality is that with the conversion of technology, data, computing power, and lot of other stuffs, lot of value opportunity as well as threats has come. And digitization is not new. Many companies, many consultants, professors like you and researchers like Thor are telling that it's important. But how the new world is going to look like, how the processes, we wanted to define that objectively. What are the technologies? Not even, so we are using the words like blockchain, AI, ML. What does basically mean for a manager or a supply chain leader? How can we use that? And once you have done that, what will be a strategy or playbook to transform? So this all we wanted to cover at one places. It's reality that Deloitte has been writing dozens of paper on that, which are widely popular. We wanted to put all of this knowledge together and do a collaboration with institution, and there the role of Thor and Professor Ed comes, and we work together. Many supply chain leaders and professors have helped us, and the last product is in our hands, which has come really, really well.
This is awesome. This is a wealth of knowledge that you guys have collected together. So Thor, besides the fact that we don't know how to say no, what led you to jump onto this project?
Well, yes. At first, it was when I was approached, I thought, like, sounds interesting. Let's talk about it. But at the first meeting, when we discussed about the scope and the objective of this project, I was sold like that. To write a book that's not only intended for students or fellow academics, but for the broad public and professionals. I mean, you and I, we know how we normally write papers. They're exact. The language is very defined, but they're, as you said, are head scratchers because you have to be in the mindset, and it's not an easy read. But that is missing. We need that link, that easy read, to give people the knowledge, the capability to come up with new solutions, to come up with innovation. And I think that's the part I'm most excited about this book and the feedback we're getting so far. That people come to us and say, like, hey, finally, there's 20 pages on data analytics, and I finally get it. You know, I don't have to read like 3 books, but it's 20 pages. I can read it in one setting at night with a glass of wine, and that's a quote from a COO at a company. So like, and I enjoyed reading it. I will read it again, and I understood finally what that means and what it can do. Of course, there's more depth that if you really want to engage in, you should read more further readings. But it will give you the toolkit to understand what these new technologies mean, what they don't mean, and that technology is not the solution for everything, but a tool in your toolbox for problems and to implement your vision.
This is awesome. This is really precisely the way that I perceived the book myself. So now that we've introduced each other and why the book was made, I guess let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about the couple of things that readers will get from the book. And we're going to talk, of course, obviously, about the supply chain management and what it is. And we're going to discuss some of these aspects. And then we're going to shift to digital supply networks and basically the DSN transformation. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So who wants to take a stab at the supply chain management process?
I think Amit is well prepared for that, because I don't know if you know, but he has a previous book on supply chain management. So he's in that field for a long time, and I think he's very well prepared to answer that for you.
Go for it, Amit.
Happy to do that. So as Thor mentioned, in 2011, I wrote a book with a professor in Copenhagen, and the book name was Supply Chain Management and Managerial Approach. And supply chain, as you know, and to keep it simple for our audience, what it did, it created a chain, as the name suggests, and it connected the business processes which were disconnected few decades back. And the way we define in a very simple term: plan, source, make, and deliver. And the goal is that there is a customer. I will do some research to understand what the person wants, and then I will do the development. And that's the reason that development and return was later added. Do the development, work with my supplier, get the product either manufactured or contracted or procured, get it into the store, and then the person comes and get it. Great. The value it had added, that it connected a lot of processes like sales and manufacturing and finance together. So if some transaction is happening in the manufacturing or warehouse, it automatically updates your costing and accounting as well as your procurement requirement. Perfect. And that is the supply chain management. And what we are saying, if you see the supply chain 101, it's the movement of the product and the information and the money and the way it has done. And it has done a great job. The thing is that the way of doing things in the past, is still relevant to get the maximum value for the workforce, for the customer, and for the entire stakeholders, including environment.
Maybe if I can just add a few thoughts on top of that. First of all, the co-author of Amit's first book, a while back then, he was in Copenhagen. Afterwards, he was at the University of Bremen, so I know him rather well by chance. The world is a small place. Everybody seems to know everybody. But what Amit mentioned with the material moving through the supply chain and so on, basically that enabled the world we live in, right? When you look around you, you see all these bits and pieces and products that are manufactured and assembled from parts from all over the world. And without supply chain, we would not be able to do that in a economic manner. And so now what is the real tricky thing when you look back at the slide that you presented, these arrows, they go in one directional. Well, information goes bidirectional, but when you look closely, you see that the information is exchanged between two of the chain links, right? But nowadays, with cloud computing and access to a digital core, that might not be the best solution for that anymore. Information needs to be broader disseminated and utilized to really create new value. And I think that is the trigger that said, okay, hey, maybe we have to rethink this.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, information, like, I think it's now, there is, just like how you have money and material, I think information is really more at this level, and everything connects to it. Like the customer information is being fed to the supplier, to the center, like everywhere. It's not really, or at least this is what we aspire for. So for digital supply networks, so that's the change, right?
That's the change.
So talk to us a little bit about this change.
The first and most important part of the change is customer. The goal is how to serve our customer in the best manner. The way I was explaining, customer is at the end of the chain after deliver. And another important or relevant factor or compulsion was the economy of scale, correct? So economy of scale, what we wanted to produce amount of material which gives me economy, so that I create a product at a cost which can be afforded by a broader segment of the society. Good. What digital supply network first does, it rethinks, can I involve my customer in a much broader manner or much before in the chain when I'm developing the product? And there the role, and if you see one stuff at a time, it will not work. But if you see the entire network, and that's why we have put it together. If you have to work for your customer, you have to understand your customer. And with the power of AI and machine learning, we can know the customer the way it was not possible. Then you can use the power of smart manufacturing, and you can play with economy of scale as well as economy of scope while still making the product affordable. And if you notice at the center, there is a digital core. You are getting the information from your ERP system, other system, as well as whatever other data or information possible. Then you are able to connect to your suppliers and your customer, supplier. And in the old picture, if you remember, the network was a fragmented network. Here we are saying everybody is a part of the same network, and it works together as one synchronized machine, the entire processes. And then we have got into details what we wanted to do to still able to connect the dots. So if I'm a purchaser in an organization, how my new world is going to look like. And there we want the person to have a look at intelligent supply or a planner. So there is a relevance from old to new, but the new world looks a lot different.
Can we delve a little bit more into the detail of, because this is the essence of what you're trying to propose. Basically, we're saying that nothing is anymore static. We have fulfillment that becomes dynamic fulfillment, supply that becomes intelligent supply, and so on. And everything is connected to everything as well at the digital core. Doesn't this create confusion? Like, let me elaborate a little bit on my question. So when I have the smart factory connected to the customer, but also connected to everything else and the digital core, isn't there redundancy? Like, wouldn't it be better, like, if everything is just connected to the digital core? What am I missing here?
Everything is connected to digital core. That's good. And what we are saying, everything is connected to each other too. If you see the lines which are connected, and still there is an organization. Suppose I'm manufacturing a car. Still, I own my ecosystem. But what I'm doing is that I'm adding my suppliers and supplier as the part of the ecosystem, as well as I'm finding ways to involve my customer as a part of the entire stuff. And it happens differently for different way. So if I'm selling a consumer product good and I need to understand the customer, how the customer is going to behave, can I use the social media data? How my logistic networks is going to be, instead of doing a planning and working with a frozen period, the way we have been doing in a manufacturing operation, can I use some flexibility in the manufacturing to respond to the demand in the real time? While working with the supplier, instead of working on a KPI defined, which I checked at the end of the month and then do the work, and I check my KPI in the real time and use as a partner before the things failed. One important thing we wanted to say that when the defect already happened, my current process is able to get it. The move from supply chain to DSN is that working in real time and catching it before the problem has already happened, which will be coming in the form of lost efficiency or lower customer service rate or higher cost.
Maybe three things to add to that, to add to what Amit mentioned. One significant change in perspective is that we not talk about like the different stages of a supply chain anymore, but capabilities, which might include several of the former stages, you know. And then when we talk about that network, the digital core is so important that it got its own node. But in essence, when we would have left that out, it would still connect all the dots together, right? Nevertheless, when we think of exchanges and what these lines possibly mean, it means data, information, but it also means material. I mean, we're still talking about physical goods being exchanged. So that's also something to keep in mind. And Amit mentioned that right at the beginning. One key driver is really the customer expectation. And when Amit talks about uniquely customized or even personalized products that are manufactured at batch size 1 at a price that is similar or at least not too far off from a mass-produced part. That is because customers now want that. Like they are used to Amazon help them to feel they deserve a 2-hour delivery of whatever they want, right? Years before, you were willing to wait 3-4 months for your car. In the 90s or in the 80s, in the former Eastern European part of the world, you waited 12 years for a car, and people they were not okay with it, but they had to deal with it. Nowadays, we really expect what we want now, and companies have to adapt to that when they want to keep the customers happy. The Amazon effect.
Unfortunately, you're so right, and Amazon are trying to, they're paying, there is a big cost that is being paid to actually create that fulfillment. And this is why, I don't know if you've noticed, recently they give you option, if you wait, they give you $1 digital or something
Yeah.
Because there is a very large hidden cost associated with this expectation that like it's mass customization at a rate that should be the fastest possible, and that's a little bit scary.
But think about Amazon, for example. When we talk digital core, Amazon is a prime example of that. I mean, they have AWS, which hosts like, I don't know the number, but like 20% of the world's internet probably. So that it's a company that has real products, that has one of the strongest supply networks in the world, and they own their own digital core because they host it.
And I mean, there is one thing there, which is the connected customer and the information relevant to the customer and what the customer likes and what the customer wants. You mentioned something, Amit, using AI and so on. I mean, it's a little bit scary that AI knows us better than we know ourselves. I mean, very, very honestly, the ads that I get on Facebook or on these social media, I mean, they really know what, like they target really what I care about. And I mean, and this is a little bit scary. And I try always to go inside and like remove these options. I never find them, and I still get the same, like some ads that I'm like, all right, this needs to stop. This is too much. So I understand the connected customer for information. So smart factory, what does this mean? Like, what is your definition to smart factory?
I would like Thor to talk, our expert of the smart factory. Then I can.
All right. Yeah. So that's basically smart factory, smart manufacturing system. That's kind of like interchangeable in that sense. It means that we utilize the technologies that we utilize on the higher level, on the supply network level, also on the shop floor and on the factory and smart manufacturing system level, for quality optimization, for better scheduling, for our warehouse planning within the smart manufacturing system, and so on. I mean, we all know the quality inspection, AI-driven parameter optimization and control. So that's what we mean there.
And
But
one thing,
like additive and so on, that allows us to customize rather on scale rather easily.
and if you see the background, so what Thor explained, it's really good. Where we are right now, so organization, I have a ERP system, I may also have a MIS system, correct? So I have the process order or a production order. I have already done my optimization. If very few companies have done the production-based optimization, where you look at the setup and other stuff. Great. What if the goal is when I'm running my machine in the real time, can I understand how good it is working? Is this in the perfect shape or with the perfect efficiency and utilization? And there we are aiming to achieve now. A lot of companies are doing with the use of sensors and the machine learning algorithm and some part of the AI, considering the cheapness of the sensor now, and now add to that some part of robotics too. So what it gives, it makes your entire operation more intelligent, and that's the clue, or that's the key to connect with my connected customer. If you want to respond real time, you have to understand your factory real time without losing the efficiency.
And Rami, manufacturing is always at the core of everything. So it's the most
absolutely. You're touching the sweet spot for me. This is I mean, I like when I start teaching the manufacturing class, the first lecture, I tell students, like I start listing certain countries and I tell them, how do you feel these countries, are they stable or not? And then I start listing another list of countries and like, how do you feel about these countries? And then I make them understand how much manufacturing brings a stability to a whole society, with stable jobs, with stable economy, with something that is not
value added. Yeah.
Value added. That's something that's not volatile, that if something happens somewhere, we shut down and we're into a disarray. So,
and it's like a circle, correct? Unless you are not stable, companies will not invest there. So it's happened, and that's how the organization developed.
So I so agree with you to the point that like I am trying to work on something. So So I'm from Lebanese origins, so I am from Lebanon, and corruption is like you it's like it's infestation, like a complete infestation. And I'm trying to create a document that explains how much manufacturing and doing manufacturing right can actually help corruption. Like I'm taking it to this level and saying that,
Fight corruption or help corruption?
say again,
Help corruption or fight corruption?
fight corruption, Thor, fight corruption. So to help the fight against corruption.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good comment. So I mean, I fundamentally believe that manufacturing is really what's the best for, like in general, for humanity. And the more we do advanced manufacturing, the better we have, better welfare for citizens and everyone, and so on. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the synchronized planning process representation. Who wants to take a stab at that?
I can start.
Go ahead, Amit.
That's another very interesting topic, like value adding. So when we were talking initially here on the supply chain, and we talked about how we are connecting a production operation to finance or sales, correct? And now what happened in the last, again, few decades, advanced planning system. So there we started thinking, hey, can I predict what will happen? And then we started looking at our historical data, then do the forecast, and then do some supply planning based on my capacity. Manufacturing goes out, and there you have seen the words like demand planning, supply planning, or supply network planning, production planning. Great. With time it moved to sales and operation planning, and there the need was to do things together. It further got matured into integrated business planning, and now we have come with a new term, synchronized. So it shows the natural maturity curve going upward. And what we are saying with the synchronized planning is synchronizing the entire ecosystem. Still, the basic principle of sales and operation integrated planning is valid. And now we have to add it with creating a full network. As we again go back to digital supply network, you're a supplier and customer are part of the network. You are able to get a lot more data, and you are able to predict not only from the customer side, but also on the manufacturing plants, considering you have the smart manufacturing, and at your suppliers. And there a lot of stuff like with COVID-19, we have seen that the supply disruption mostly came from the supplier. If we have a synchronized planning, and if we had the ability to predict, I'm not saying 100% even can be predicted, but a lot. If we have the ability to predict, we can respond much better. And that's what we are talking about, the resilient supply chain. So synchronized planning is at the heart of the resilient supply chain we are in.
And sometimes we are able to predict, but it's challenging to make people believe in the prediction, like or believe in the change. Thor, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yes. Well, one thing that when we talk about resilience, it means like we don't really have to avoid all disruptions or so. We just have to make sure that we're capable of managing it and being resilient to basically come back up to speed and come back to an operational effectiveness that allows us to fulfill our mission. And I think that is key. When we think of the synchronization, it really connects the demand with the supply side, and supply can be of various origins. For you and me, Rami, it means manufacturing. For others, it might mean go to a commodity market and buy it there on the world market. But this synchronization, or that data-driven perspective of putting all your ducks in a row and basically understanding what are the ducks and where are the ducks, allows you to realign in times of disruption, like what we saw now with COVID-19. Significant disruption, but and a lot of supply chains struggled when they didn't have that transparency and didn't have that synchronization across the different nodes of the network, or in that case, the chain. And with the chain, I mean, the weakest link, we all know that saying, right? With a network, you have a much more resilient structure, just from the geometrical function itself.
So talking about that, a solution can be to move towards an intelligent supply process representation. So talk to us a little bit about this, like the input, the output. What is it that we're looking in here?
We will try to be as short, because I recently did 1.5 hours just on this slide. So,
All right, hold on. Let me fix my chair. How to sit? Go for it.
see, sourcing to strategic sourcing have been happening in some time. If you see some of the HBR articles or some of the books, it says that a dollar saved at your procurement is a dollar gained at the profit. Good. And that we call that the strategic sourcing. So why intelligent supply and what more value you are adding? To be very concise and summarized manner, it's the three things we are aiming for. First thing, can I add the predictive part? And predictive part is more relevant for your strategic sourcing or strategic procurement. Any organization or any mature organization that generate analytics like spend cube. So how do you spend your money? Where do you see the value? And which are your strategic supplier and strategic product group? Most of these activities are manual. They are a plan with a purchaser with many years of experience. You identify these are my strategic supplier, these are my strategic product, and then you generate with use of some technology or Excel sheet. What the new disruptive technology can do for you, look entire data set, and that's the left part of the screen you are showing, Rami. So, and this data set comes with the strategic data, all the contracts you have written, all the past spending we have done, and the master data, who are my suppliers, which are my product group, real-time transaction data, as well as the transaction data history. When I say transaction data, like PO and payment and the deliveries, and add to that any external data which we can get from the agency or the social media data. All of these data can together automate your strategic supply part, and the real action of the people will require when some exception happen for the strategic part. Now let's take, that was my first part, strategic or predictive sourcing. Second is the PO process automation. Right now, any medium to big size organization, there are dozens of people whose role are to create a PO, to release the PO, to do a credit check, then the material movement, ASN, advanced shipping notification, invoice matching. Most of those processes can be automated by usage of the robotic process automation. So what digital supply network does with the use of the data in the digital core and the technologies, some of them are related to blockchain or AI and ML, you can automate the process. There still will be a deviation, and that deviation will create an alert or notification where the human power is still required. So that was my second part, automated. Then the third part is related to your network. When I say network, putting everything together, that's great. What happened? What's your requirement? You are sharing in real time, getting back, finding alternate supplier. In addition, the what can be a differentiating factor is the innovation. Till date, innovation is mostly limited to the organization. The moment you make your suppliers as a part of the network, you can multiply the power of the innovation. And that you can achieve through a trust-based relationship where the contracts are not written just to minimize the risk or hedging the risk. It's more like, can we work together? And the way to work together is more objective relationship where you are identifying the key performance indicator or supplier performance in the real. So that's the goal you are achieving with the input of all the things in the left. And then you have the technologies, what we are covering here. I will invite our audience to read this chapter. Pretty sure that they will love it.
So I want to take a couple of questions that are coming to us. So let me do it now, and then so that like this we can allow for more follow-on questions. The first question we have is regulators and standard bodies are pushing for the cybersecurity of supply chain to ensure that components were not manipulated and so on by third parties, especially for critical systems. What's your experience on this issue?
Thought you want to go?
Sure. Okay. That is a huge topic, and we just recently saw that bipartisan new bill that on the manufacturing task force that addressed that to some extent. And the U.S. government is quite involved in these cybersecurity standards because they become more and more important. And when you look at our first slide with the digital core, well, when somebody can break in that, they get a lot of value out of that and can replicate a lot of the production secrets, the trade secrets that might be relevant for either safety applications, human safety when we talk pharmaceuticals, or even the nation's defense. So it is extremely critical. It will become more critical because the more data we share, the more vulnerable our networks become. So we need to address that from the start, to not build an infrastructure that is prone to cyber attacks, because people will definitely try. I mean, that's I guess a fact, and we can talk about it as long as we want. But there will be criminal elements from various perspectives, be it competing nations or competing companies, or just criminals who want to make a profit, that will try to get that data, because that data, as Rami said, is valuable, and it will become more valuable. And we understand that data is actually kind of like a currency in itself, and currency is attractive to people to gain access to. When it comes to backdoors and how we can secure that in a sense of counterfeit and against counterfeit, I think in our book we talk about blockchain, and I know that's a little bit of an overused technology right now because it's very hyped. Nevertheless, when we break it down to what it really can provide, I think this is a very interesting technology that addresses that problem, or can address that problem. And we see some, since the book came out, some startups, some companies that team up with the Department of Defense, Simba Chain, I'm not sure if you heard of them. If not, check them out, that do some really cool things in that space. So stuff is moving on, and our book provides a good basic understanding of these technologies that can address that issue.
It's awesome. There's a question for me by Mazen. There is a subscription list for the live sessions. So this is how it works on LinkedIn. It's there is no subscription list, unfortunately. However, this is every Friday, 12 noon. So if you want to keep 12 noon EST, if you want to keep record of that, and just log in on LinkedIn and you'll get the notification. And I will show at the end of the session where you can access all previous recordings. So now I'm going to switch to another question from Mike Demos. So, hi, Amit, you referenced Amazon as an example several times. Do you have recommendations for the smaller manufacturers, says $100 million, and how to go about entering the DSN era? These companies make up the larger part of the manufacturing base, but don't have the capital funds of a Amazon. The question addressed to you, so you want to go take a stab at it?
I will. So first, thank you for asking this. Second thing, Amazon, just an example. The reason we are saying that because they have done a lot. And understand, and yesterday I was having a discussion, it's relevant for organization of all size and when they were founded. It can be different in their essence. Now, let's take an example of a startup versus established organization for many years. Established organization will have multiple application system, legacy system, defined processes in people's head. So the transformation can be a bit more difficult, considering that you have to change a lot and define a lot. And because the organization already did the product maturity, now it's working on the process maturity. Compared to that, a startup organization or smaller organization where the product is still maturing, you have the capability of an empty slate. You can still define the process before process define itself by the person you have. So a vision to connect, think on the higher level what you are aiming to achieve. Again, basically is three things. Look at your customer, look at your internal processes, and look at the collaboration. And then you will see what technologies make sense. If it does make sense to create a ERP system and connect the processes, yes, you should go ahead and do that. Does it make sense to put some sensors? And before that, you should have a business case. Considering a smaller organization, it's even more relevant. If I'm putting $100,000 for a technology, what's the benefit I will get in what time horizon? So work on those business case. The good thing is that information is so much democratized, you will be able to find that information about the technology which is relevant to you, about creating a collaborative network or using a digital core or ERP. But do what makes sense and have a technology strategy. Even the way we work as a consultant or consulting firm, we help our organization create a business and tech strategy, which can be created irrespective of the organization size. as long as you have a vision for your customer and you understand your processes and partner.
Maybe Rami, I can add a little bit to Mike. Thank you very much for your question, and that goes very close to my heart. As Rami knows, we did a lot of work with small and medium-sized manufacturers and how they address smart manufacturing, which in a scope is part of the digital supply network. And to echo what Amit said, when we quote Amazon, it's because they are this bold vision that everybody can relate to. Especially when they're not from manufacturing or not from the supply chain field, they still understand Amazon and how Amazon changed their lives. And now, when you think of Amazon actually provides a platform where smaller manufacturers could sell their products through, right? So they let them access their network because the network has different nodes. So a small manufacturing company can be part of a larger digital supply network with maybe a larger partner or a couple of other smaller partners. That allow him to really leverage all these benefits of connecting, of exchanging data and accessing data. The second aspect that I would like to mention here is exactly as Amit said. Don't feel okay. I have to invest in AI, ML, put sensors in my shop floor, put a bunch of robotics there, make our products all traceable with blockchain, and put everything in the cloud. No. Think about, okay, what industry am I in? When you're an automotive supplier or a smaller manufacturer, well, you probably have no choice. You will be told which ERP system you need to use. Well, there you go. But when you're a little bit more free moving and have a little bit more flexibility, think of what are the current problems that you have and that you foresee in the future when you have your growth strategy, or you see, oh, our industry goes in that direction. We try to enter that market with these players and these other customers. What do they expect? Do they expect faster delivery? Do they expect lower cost? Do we have a quality problem? And that might inform you at what stages within your own environment there are levers that you can apply a technology to solve these in a short and long-term manner. As Amit said, and I think we'll jump to the business strategy soon. It's very important to keep a long-term strategy in mind, but align it also with short-term wins, because the return of investment for your technology adoption cannot be underestimated for multiple reasons. When you report to a board for them, because they want to see a positive cash flow, and also for the morale and for the motivation of the people implementing it and the people working with it, because they want to see, oh, even if it's a small dashboard that displays raw numbers without any analytics behind it, it's something that you say, okay, see, that's what we worked on the last 3 months, and here you see the result. That the overall end goal is that basically it automatically provides you event classification and predictive analytics. That's great, but that will take a few years, and you won't see any short wins, which can be a burden.
Frustrating. Which can create frustration. So I think this is a good segue to talking about business strategy and digital supply network. So basically, I see that you guys have built it up from the part all the way up where.
Maybe I can jump in here. For this, that's a little bit on the technology side and what you need to think about when you apply technologies such as AI or machine learning on these spaces. In this case, we looked at artificial intelligence on the different levels. So when we start when you can go back to the slide or show the slide, that's easier to relate, because I will talk about it. Well, on the bottom, you will see the part level. And on the part level, we have a very solid understanding of the mechanics and the physics behind it. When we manufacture a part, we know, hey, to use a milling process, we kind of know how the material will behave, what tolerances we can achieve, what the parameters and the tool bear what effect that has on the outcome, on the quality, on our energy usage, and so on. And so it's a very technical question, but we can address that pretty well already. When we move higher to the machine tool, still pretty clear boundaries around that problem. We have our sensor inputs, we have our machine tool manufacturer that can provide us some context, and there are pretty good models already available for tool wear prediction and so on. The higher we move up, when you click 2 or 3 more, next time the smart manufacturing system. There we already talk about okay, collaboration and interdependencies, and it gets more complex and it becomes more organizational. On the factory level, you might have different production lines with probably plastics and metals, different like additive and subtractive, and maybe some casting. So very different processes, and all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more difficult to make that connection and find a technical solution to that. Even more so on the company level. But the next jump, that is really what we are talking about, and that's really tricky, because on the digital supply network level, we might talk different companies that have to agree on exchanging data. What data do they exchange? Who owns it? What happens when, for example, one partner in the network really can increase their revenue based on data provided by another partner, but the partner that provides the data does not really leverage that. So who gets that share of the revenue? And what happens when somebody makes a risky decision based on data that is provided by another party? Are they responsible for that? Can they be held liable? And now all of a sudden, unfortunately, we talk about lawyers in the process. So that there's a lot of questions unsolved, and they're very interesting questions, but they're not necessarily technical at this stage. They will become technical when we talk standards and how we actually build the data pipeline and all. But at this point, we're talking about, okay, what data can be shared? How can we secure it? How can we put a value to the data, like when you exchange that? And that just elevates when you talk about the industry level, because there you definitely talk about your competitors, and then data sharing becomes a competitive strategy.
Ahmed, do you want to add something here?
Saying that consider the strategy, the way Thor started pretty well. Start from technology and the business and see how you can put the overarching factor. One thing which we have covered, and we also have learned as the author while we were researching, mostly we have been telling that technology is the enabler. So look at the business requirement, which is still valid. But one difference is that sometimes we have seen in reality that understanding what technology can do, people are able to create a visionary solution. And the example can be, suppose you are a maintenance manager, unless you know what the prescriptive algorithm of maintaining your safety stock or maintaining the parts inventory can do, as well as what the additive manufacturing can do for the 30,000 parts which you have at a plant, it will be difficult to think for that vision. Once you know, oh, AI can do this, or additive manufacturing can do that, then you can combine your business requirement with the technology. But as you move up, it will become more. And I don't know if we'll have time for that or not, but we have also put a slide on that, and we wanted to say that what all things are relevant, and you will see that most important still is the people part, which will make any strategy successful.
I think, is this the chart you're referring to?
This and a slide after that. I don't know, Remy, how much time we have?
We're fine. We still have like approximately 10 minutes, and basically you guys still wanted to talk about degree of automation, but I think this has been covered to some sense on like the sweet point between different elements. And I think the most important thing that we want to talk about is really this chart at the end. So I want to leave, like, this is the conclusion. I want to leave like 6-7 minutes for this. So if you want to talk a little bit about the business strategy and digital supply networks, I mean, some of the things were mentioned when we were doing up, but these are more of like the question and the choices. So do you want to take a stab at that?
Yes, what the essence here is that in past or even very recently, supply chain strategy comes at a lower level. What do you mean by lower level? If you can divide the strategy, corporate strategy, business strategy, and functional strategy, correct? So the supply chain was mostly at the functional strategy with some part of the business strategy. Now what's happening with the digital supply network, it has to start from the corporate strategy and business and functional. Other than, so we are not claiming that the vision statement. A vision statement said, why do I want to exist as a firm? I agree that, okay, their supply network is a bit less relevant or not relevant. But as soon as you move down in the strategy cascade, the one which you are showing, Rami, that which product, which market segment, what's my competitive advantage, what's my strategy to go to a market, what's my strategy to develop the product, is highly integrated and connected with the digital supply network. I again welcome readers to read or our audience to read the full chapter, but the stuff is that supply network or supply chain, if you still want to stick with that term, very, very relevant with the organization strategy, the way we do the business, the way we are able to sell the product, serve our customer, and exist as an organization.
Maybe just one sentence here. Oh, sorry, Rami, go on.
No, go ahead, Thor.
Yeah, just to really reiterate what Amit said is supply chain was always very high on the strategic totem pole at most companies, at least companies that provide some form of physical asset to customers. And I believe with the transition to digital supply networks, it becomes even more integral. Like the digital supply networks are combining all the core competencies of a company or a network of companies, because it really connects customer to basically raw material and all the processes in between, connected by data, and that informs business decisions. So it becomes that overarching umbrella that informs your strategy, and that's why everybody needs to read our book.
That's a good one. So I have a question for you, and I see it at the heart of this cascade. So how will we win? And I understand that, I mean, we're going from vision to all the way to initiatives, but at the heart of it is really, I mean, how will we win? And if we want to talk a little bit more about that, the question, where will you compete on? So you're putting that from the perspective of DSN, from the perspective of the strategy for your digital supply network, innovation, quality, service, so on. But from the other side, the business, it's more of like you're talking about the profit model and how you can actually like monetize what we're doing. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because that's the heart of it. Like at the end of the day, we want to win when we implement something to make something better. So can you comment a little bit more on that?
That's a good one. And we can give an example. It will help. Since you use the word monetize. So assume that you are, say, Caterpillar. So you are manufacturing the construction equipment and selling to the organization who are in this business. What if instead of just selling the product, you are able to sell a subscription, so that when my construction machine is in uses, real time I'm having a look, is this working at the optimum condition or not? If not, I'm able to manage either through automatically or through by getting connected with the operator. Then what happened in this case? You got a customer for life. The machine is working at the optimum level so that your customer is making more money and your machine is there. And since it's not a one-time sale, it's a subscription-based model which is helping you monetize better. And there are dozens of examples like that. Second thing, since we are talking about the strategy, how will we win? The differentiating factor can be the agility and speed. And then you can take examples or case studies like Zara and other. And it depends. Not every textile seller wants to become a Zara. So it depends what you have chosen as your differentiating factor and the core competence. And then your digital supply network strategy should be completely aligned to that and should be able to support that. That's what we are saying.
So in the last couple of minutes, we're going to be chatting.
Can I add one little piece, and it's just one sentence basically when you go back to the slide before. You're fully right. How we will win, or how do we win, is at the core. It's actually in the center of the slide, so I think that's also a good depiction here. But I got the question before, right now, is it really how we will win or how we will survive? And I just want to address that real quick, because right now a lot of companies are struggling. And my answer is wholeheartedly, hey, win can be interpreted within the context. And winning right now means surviving for a lot of companies. So it still applies, even so it sounds like, hey, win sounds, okay, you want to be the number one. Well, you want to be the number one that survives, right? The before the cutoff.
You want to be relevant. You want to still be there on the market when disruption happens.
Yeah. So I just want to emphasize that it's not seen as, oh, you always have to be the number one leading in your industry. No, it's like, how will you win for your goals?
True.
Absolutely, everything is was perspective. So I really would really like the key takeaway from this is that's the beautiful summary of our discussion for this hour, the relevant factors for the DSN transformation. Before we start delving into some of the elements inside, let's talk first of all for people seeing the chart, the color code. So we have the digital core in the center, and then we have light green and dark green.
Yeah.
What does light green represents?
So light green are very close, and the dark green you can consider for this discussion overarching factor.
Say
These
again.
are very, so dark green can be overarching factor, which it holds together. Light green is closer. If it's not in the right manner, it's not even going to fly. And the blue is that your basic inherent, foundation. So when I say digital core, it can be difficult for different for different companies. The basic assumption is that you are able to first connect your processes, very basic. And some research was done in MIT. They found it out 50% of organizations don't even have the digital core. And when I say digital core is your sales, the basic ERP, consider that. So you have the digital core. But for the DSN, digital core needs to be enhanced. And there we have started with the business case and for what stuff you want to do. And there you have to keep enhancing your digital core by getting more data and others. And here, 2 or 3 we can take for this conversation, considering the time. I'll first start with the leadership and the employee.
Can I ask you a question for the leadership one?
Yes.
What's beyond the the desire to change? Because we often say leadership, the first thing we say is leadership has to have the desire to change. What's beyond that? Like real metrics. If you want to go to someone right now in a company and say, I mean, they are the leader of the company and say, we want to implement this. What's the other peripherals that leadership needs to have so that we can make this successful?
Very good point. And we have taken a bold approach on that in the book. The first thing that is the open to learn. And we are also using the term called digital literacy. We don't want we are not recommending a supply chain officer or a supply chain director to become a data scientist, but they must understand the basics of the technologies and the processes and understand the opportunity it has. Because once they understand, then only they will be on board, and then only they will be driving it to become the success. If it does not happen, and there are examples for that, what happens, say $1 million will be approved for one particular case, go and see what blockchain can do for us. And then you hire some consultant, you get some person, you do it, everybody claps hand, and it does not go anywhere. So first thing is the readiness to change. You already mentioned, good, but that's not enough. You have to understand the opportunity it has, to understand some basics of what the technology, whatever is relevant for your company, understand the business objectives. So we have been very direct on that all the transformation, especially for the digital transformation, it has to be driven by a business case. And there the involvement of leadership is required to understand more on the monetary term. Am I talking about better serving my customer or saving some money or increasing my revenue or all? And then what are the technology? Who are the people? So those are the really leadership things is required from the leadership to make it successful. Otherwise, not going to fly.
And just to add here, as Amit said, employees are closer to the core, right? They're more essential. And we did that on purpose. That leadership is not, employees are essential, and leadership is also important, but not that essential. It has to become coming from the organization, from the employees, from everybody. They have to buy in, because only top down saying like we do that now, that will fail. So we need that buy-in and the understanding at the masses, like the people on the shop floor, the people in the warehouses. They need at least have that literacy to understand why we do a technology project, what it will solve, how it will make their life easier, how they would adapt, and how it will improve their jobs.
The resistance to change is always the toughest thing to get something implemented. And that was like, I wanted to ask, how come you put employees closer to the core than leadership? So I guess you've answered that. So before we close up, Amit and Thor, for each one of you, like in a minute's time, can you say what's the key takeaway besides to purchase the book? We got that, Thor. Besides that, what's the key takeaway for people, hearing about digital supply network for the first time? What's your takeaway on this? So I'm going to start with you, Amit, for a minute.
Sure. The person who are listening to this or will listen the recorded version, I understand they have an interest in supply chain. Supply chain reality is that it is changing. It has changed and changing at a very fast pace. So my request to all of you is keep skilling yourself. So enhance your skill in the digital literacy. Get comfortable with what basic ERP or a planning system and then AI, ML, and blockchain can do. If you are already in the organization and you are leading some transformation, understand the business case, understand what it can do for you, focus on three things. First thing, serve your customer better. Tech can do a lot. Processes, whatever can be automated, make them automated. But people are still the very important part of that. So we still need people. And third thing, work for a collaborative network. And it is good for the employees. It's more engaged workforce. It's good for the customer. Overall, it's good for the entire stakeholders, including the environment. And a lot of exciting time is ahead. So if you are in supply chain or digital supply network, you are at the right place.
Thorsten.
All right. So Rami forbid me to say buy a copy. So I say buy 2 copies because it makes it great for anybody, your colleague, your friends, and so on. But joking aside, I have 3 takeaways that I believe are going through this project. One is, well, we have to equip people with the right knowledge, the foundational knowledge to make the right decision, because each company is different, each industry is different. So having the knowledge, what is available, the capability of applying new technologies to their problem is key, and that's what Digital Supply Networks is about. So that's my first point. The second point is it's not a straightforward process. This is complex. This is difficult. So there will be setbacks. There will be little failures. See them not as failures, but see it as learning opportunities. When when one project fails in a sense of it doesn't achieve the time frame or the outcome that was predicted, don't say, okay, we scrap the whole thing, but think, okay, what can we learn from it? And at the very least, the people implementing that project, they advance their knowledge in that technology, and that will help your company in the future to perform better. So change your perspective on failure. And the last point, and probably the most important one, this is not optional. You have no choice. Either you make the choice to think about this and then transform, or the choice will be made for you. And then it's too late. So now it's the time.
Sounds like a true German, Thorsten. So I have a question before I let go from Olympia. She's asking, do you think SMEs have an easier buy-in given they have easier decision-making processes? At the same time, they have more limited resources for implementing the new tech. 15 seconds answer. Who wants to take a stab at that?
Did some research on SMEs, and on the one hand side, yes, sometimes they have easier decision making, but the person making the decision is often a little hesitant when it comes to large investments in technology. And the limited resources, and I'm not just talking money, but also IT capabilities and a dedicated IT department that is sometimes missing, that make it really hard. So for startups, my recommendation is team up for SMEs, team up with a startup or some partners in academia to get that resource at a good price. Yeah.
I want to add one thing that you said that's very, very important. You said partner with academia, and I want to highlight that a lot. And the success we've been seeing from new mentality in academia, where academicians, I mean, me and you, Thorsten, are from that breed that want to make relevant industrial research that actually trickles to industry and benefits the society and it's just not beautiful paper that
There are also beautiful papers and books coming out of it.
Yes. So I want to thank you so much, both of you. But before I thank you, I wanted to answer a question that someone had about where they can access the live sessions. So if you go onto my LinkedIn page, and in the features section, there is this Next Live archive. If you click on there, you can see all the sessions. So for example, we had the session with Professor Alman. We had the session about the live from NIAR. So any session you want, you can click on the video to see the full video of it, as well as you have access to the chart. And basically today, like within 24 hours, this is what we're doing. We're talking about the Digital Supply Network, and we will be uploading the video in here as well as a chart. So with that being said, I want to thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time from the day to talk about this very, very important topic. I agree that the digital supply networks, it's happening whether we want it or not, and each industry has to see when it makes sense for them and how to do the transition and so on. And thank you so much, Amit, and thank you so much, Thor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And we talk next week about entrepreneurship. So this is going to be another exciting topic with Professor LaRossi. So we will be talking about this. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.